Hey, friends, I'm Thea Charles, and you are listening to the Push or Pivot podcast. In this series, we discuss the path someone chooses when they are at a crossroads of their life. Do they push through the adversity, or do they stop, reassess, and pivot? In this episode, we spoke with Cece Hart, an inspirational activist who teaches us the power of listening to your heart. Well, hello, Cece. How are you today?
Hi, Thea. I am great. Thank you. How are you?
Very good. Living in this new world where we're over here in the States all locked up, but good overall.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, I know times are changing right now, but we can use this opportunity for various things that we wouldn't have had the time for.
Exactly. Kind of like a blessing.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to talk with you. I have, read up a little bit about you and looked at your Instagram, and I'm like ready to dive in. I know that everyone else is going to be really excited as well. But before we start, if you could just tell everyone a bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I am a hand in a lot of cookie jar type of girl.
Mm-hmm.
I love experimenting and exploring all kinds of different modalities of health and wellness. So one thing that I call myself is an inspiration activist or an inspiration sorceress. And what that means to me is that I just find all the ways that inspire me, learn them, and try to share them with others. And so one of the biggest things for me is food.
Mm.
And I'm I'm such a big foodie. I'm totally food obsessed. And I wanted to make food delicious that's actually healthy for you too. And so and I'm a chef. I make meal plans. I consult restaurants and help them with their menus. And I incorporate as much fresh and local food as possible into that. So there's always a healing strategy for me, encompassing many different modalities into creating food. So for me, it's not just a plate of spaghetti, it's what the ingredients can bring to you, how they can heal you, how they can affect your energy levels, and working with each body individually to see what makes the body thrive and what might slow down or impair the body. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a writer. I write about everything and anything from health, fitness to energy to stories that I've collected from my travels. I've been traveling for a little bit over 6 years now, so I've got some interesting tales from that.
I bet.
And I'm also a wellness advisor and partnerships coordinator for a tech startup that is aimed at regenerating the planet. So you might say it's an eco-friendly initiative that works with currency. So exchanging, buying and selling currency that you would already be doing, but it regenerates the planet for your efforts. So that's kind of me in a little nutshell.
That's a little nutshell. I don't know if that's little. That's like really great, like awesome. Um, Before we start talking, you mentioned that you're currently in Bali. Can you tell us?
Yeah, Bali, Indonesia.
Oh.
It is a hot spot for health and wellness. So it kind of just pulled me in, to be honest with you. It wasn't a plan. I got here and then now I'm here.
That's amazing. How did how did you get there?
On a plane. No, I'm just kidding. I was traveling. So the story actually starts when I met my partner, who is now my husband, but we were traveling trying to find our way in the world, I guess. And we we were supposed to be meeting my mother in Bali. So my mom was flying from North America
Mhm.
over to this side of the world because we were in New Zealand.
Okay.
And she's like, "Oh, come meet me in Bali. It's beautiful." And it was kind of before the Instagram craze hit.
Hmm.
So so I came here to meet her, but she didn't get in. Like she had a visa issue, so her passport didn't have 6 months validity, and so she wasn't able to get in.
Oh
And
wow.
so it turned into this huge, huge story, but I had to go meet her in Hong Kong.
Uh-huh.
And while I was away, my husband decided to get us a 1-year lease.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got back, we had all these appointments to houses, and life just kind of opened those doors for us. It was just, here's the house, it's in your budget, this is available, and all of the dreams that we might have had on dream boards and vision boards prior just unraveled themselves at our feet. So we just jumped in.
Wow, that's really awesome. That's really cool. Like this kind of happened. Um, did your mom ever make it to Bali?
No, she's so afraid to come now because that happened. So she refuses to come back. But I did see her in Italy last summer because I
Okay,
had to meet her somewhere else. She's like, I would love to go to Bali, but they don't like to let people in.
got
It's
it.
not the case. You just have to always be mindful of your travel situation.
Right, right, right. So on the show, we love to talk about crossroads and what happened on the other side. What would you say was a big crossroad for you?
So I would say that, at the beginning of this journey, I was living a pretty conventional life. I had finished university, I was on my path to my career, and I met this man that really shook it all up for me. And he he caused me to double think all of the choices that were so normal for me for my whole life. And so I feel like if we're looking in images, I'm like standing there at a train tracks, and there's one going one way and there's one going another way, and I
Mhm.
decided to get off the track I was going on and follow him, which everyone told me not to do.
Oh,
Yeah, and I just pushed through all of that, I guess, uncertainty and extreme fear, because when you don't know what's going to happen,
hmm,
it's this really extreme anxiety and panic because you have no way to tell if this is going to be the right thing for you. But I really trusted in my intuition and followed that path. And by doing that, it was really hard, and there was a lot of challenges because it was against the grain and against what I had known my whole life and against what everyone thought was good for me.
hmm,
But it ended up leading me, you know, to Bali for one,
hmm.
but into all of the fields that I was talking about when I was introducing myself, all of these things that I'm so passionate about now, I would have never explored if I didn't, change the track I was on.
I love that imagery of the train track. Yeah, that's so like I can just picture that. And I guess what was it? I'm trying to think here. Like you had everyone telling you not to do it. What was what was that feeling like to kind of to get on that other track?
When you're coming down on a roller coaster and your stomach is like up in your brain, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's like that because I think on some level, you're going to be fine, but
Mhm.
the fear that you might not be is really traumatizing in a way. If you fall into that trap, like let's say you really are on a roller coaster and you have your seatbelt and your harness on, and they do safety checks, and you're probably going to be fine, but just that moment, if you let your brain slip into, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not safe, it was like that.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and but so I'm telling my brain, okay, you're fine, you're gonna be fine, and my heart is excited, but at the same time I was a little bit concerned that I was giving up everything that I worked so hard for, and that maybe it would end in a disaster.
Mhm. Yeah. And it doesn't seem like it was a disaster at all, right?
Not so far, fingers crossed.
um, so what did you do when I guess, when you got on the other track, was that the track directly to Bali or did it have detours? Like, how did it get there?
No, there was like a lot of different obstacles on that track. So the other one was probably pretty smooth sailing. Maybe I'd been on that track before. It was, fine. There was no
Mhm,
obstacles. But this one, it was like one fallen tree on the track after another, or like an animal crossing, all these things
mhm,
that kept making me question if I had made the right decision. And I think each step of the way, it was a battle in my head and my heart. So my heart was saying, this is okay. Challenges that come up are not necessarily signs that you're on the wrong path. It's just an obstacle that you have to overcome. And if you were on a train, I mean, often trains will stop for these things so that, you can move them, but
Mm.
you still end up going on the path and the direction that you're meant to go. And so it was, I mean, I think we could go into lots of stories of those problem moments where I thought I wasn't making the right decision. But what pushed me through was like always questioning myself and wondering if I was in alignment with what my heart was telling me and what my intuition was telling me. Especially as a woman, I think that we have incredible insight into that, into our gut and into what feels right for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so really tapping into that and trusting that was how I kept making sure I was going to the right place.
Mm. And I love what you said about obstacles not necessarily being there to reroute you, but they're just something that you push through.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes maybe you couldn't push through them directly, but I feel that there's always a way around an obstacle if you're meant to get to the other side of it. So
Mm.
it's just sometimes thinking out of the box and thinking, how do we overcome this? And sometimes struggles are like really big tests for us. And if we let them win against us, then we don't actually get to move on to the next level, or we don't pass the test. And so I've actually trained myself to think about these obstacles as if they were a test. And if I pass them, that means that I get to move on to the next level. And so I'm like evolving that way. And I think we could all look at it that way. Instead of it being against us, it could be for us.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love the visual of evolving and leveling up. It's really cool. So, so you mentioned that once you got to your end destination that you're currently at in Bali, that you kind of fell into this into this world of food. So, how did that happen?
Food started for me at the very beginning of my journey, because when I was back at home, I was eating, pretty standard North American diet, lots
Mhm.
of food that comes in boxes, lots of processed food, lots of French fries, lots of burgers, like pretty much the easiest, greasiest food that I could get my hands on. And so when I when I met my partner, my husband now, he actually brought diet into my world, which, you know what, that was an obstacle, because I thought I don't really want to go through effort
Mhm.
and change for this relationship to work. That seems annoying. I'm just going to avoid it. But I pushed through, and every step of the way it was like it was like leveling up. It's so I would start with one thing. So what the first thing I did was I removed dairy from my diet,
Uh-huh.
and I saw the effects that it had on my energy levels, on my hormones, on so many aspects of my life, that it empowered me to take another step. And so I just
Mhm.
kept on taking these steps. So after dairy, I removed gluten,
Okay.
and then I found even more health and even more energy and even more capacity to learn, and even my vision was clearer. There was so many physical aspects and emotional aspects that came with it that I just wanted to learn more. And so I ended up in San Francisco,
Mhm.
and I was studying online, like all of these different online modules of different alternative healing and nutrition. And so that it started there. Bali, though, is a hot spot for healing and food. So when I got here, it felt like it had opened its arms up for me to, I guess, like you were saying, like level up and
Mhm.
really, you know, I guess embody all the things that I had been learning and put them into practice, and just start sharing with the world what I had learned, because I realized that not everybody gets to go on the same path that I did. And so maybe all that learning and all of the workshops that I got to go to and all the people that taught me along the way, others don't get that same opportunity. So how could I wrap all up the years of this path that I've been on and start sharing them with others?
Mhm. That's awesome. That's awesome. So I know at the beginning you explained a bit about what you were doing. So how are you sharing this with others?
So, in many ways, something that I always laugh at myself about is that I was pretty intent on not being online until about this year.
Okay.
So, I really believed that I didn't need to be online to spread my message because I do meet so many people and interact with so many people in person. And it's my favorite way of connecting with someone because when I'm really there and I can see them and I can see their skin and their hair and I can feel their energy and hear their emotional story, I love that. It really drives me. But you know, now we have such amazing ability online. We have like these Zoom calls and we can see each other, and there's so much capacity out there to connect with people however you want to. And
Mm.
so, so I let myself get convinced to go back online. So I am starting up being more online now. Um, but so now I don't really put myself out there that much. Like I don't do incredible marketing campaigns or anything like that. I just do my best to help people in the capacity that I can. And then I just kind of, it might sound a little bit corny or even like woo woo, but I just trust that everything's going to work out how it's meant to. And so with my consulting and my coaching, it's that way. If someone comes to me and they need me, I'm happy to help them. And otherwise, I just kind of, I'm here just sharing recipes and insightful information or inspirational content that has helped me. And I just share that on my websites and socials in as much capacity as I can.
That's awesome. And I mean, I kind of subscribe to that woo-woo thought too. That things will work out. Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not alone. Okay.
No, you're not alone. You're in good company here. If you could impart one piece of advice, what would that be?
So the best piece of advice that I could give is to be vulnerable. And when I was first starting off my whole journey here and changing my life, I had watched a TED Talk by Brene Brown called The Power of Vulnerability. And she talks about how we have this lack of connection to each other and how we're we're not being as real as we might want to be with ourselves and others. And I made a decision in that moment to switch in my brain and my constitution and how I was raised to just be vulnerable with myself. And so that might mean if I have a feeling or if I have a thought or if I have a dream or whatever it is, to just let that be and be honest with myself. And that was incredibly empowering to be so raw and honest with myself, because when you're honest with yourself and you're vulnerable with yourself and you let yourself really see yourself, you're not telling yourself that you're something that you're not or that you want to be. When you're really upfront with who you are, then you can show that to other people, and then that's where real magic begins to happen, because then you start connecting with people on a really fundamentally deep level that actually means something. And I've seen that happen in my life now, where I I can see now, looking back with hindsight, that although I wanted to be real and true, I was being who I thought that I needed to be in so many situations, in job interviews, or when I was meeting people, even at a social gathering. You know, these faces and these masks that we put on of who we think we need to be. And so I didn't have the same level of authentic connections as I would now by being like truly who I am. So if I'm grumpy and I don't want to talk to you, I'm honest about that in a nice way.
Right.
But just these kind of things that have shaped my life so much that it's the best advice I could give to you is like really fall into your own vulnerability.
That is awesome. So awesome. And I mean, that's something that I try to hold on to. And every time you hear it, it's like, that's right. I don't need to be anyone else but myself. And that's really, you're 100% right. That's where the magic happens. Um, Gosh, this was so good. You've said so many like amazing things. If someone wanted to get in contact with you or know what's going on with you right now, how do they find you?
Well, like I said, I'm just making my way onto the World Wide Web, so I am setting up my socials. Can we link them at the bottom so that
Yeah,
people
we
can?
can definitely link.
Okay, and I also have a website. It's ccheart.com that you can go to and connect with me there.
Okay.
And another way to connect with me, which I think is super fun, is like I had mentioned at the beginning, I'm a wellness coordinator for a tech company.
Hmm.
And so right now, in all of my interactions, I'm inviting people to get involved in that because it's a system that's designed to regenerate the planet. And obviously, in the state that we're in worldwide right now, we know that the world could need a little bit of love.
Yes.
So this this project is really, it's beautiful and it's intricate, and so it's hard to condense into a small period of time, but it's a payment platform.
Hmm.
It is a community almost like LinkedIn, but for people that really want to make a change in the world.
Okay.
It is a marketplace, so it has like an Etsy element to it.
Okay.
And it's also a, well, we call it a governance system, but I know that's a little bit intense. But it just means that you as a user, you as somebody that has downloaded the app and that is participating in it, you have a say in what's going on with the app and all the different actions of it, which is really cool. So you get to actually be part of the app and the processes because it's all decentralized. So it's kind of like, we call it a movement for regeneration, for helping to heal the planet, and you get rewarded and you get to meet really cool people, and it's just kind of like a gift back to the world to try to make things a little bit better, especially in times like this where we all need a little bit of hope.
That's so beautiful. And what's the name of the app?
The app is called the Seeds Passport. It actually was just launched yesterday, so
Oh,
you'll
cool.
be, yeah, you'll be like some of the first people to hear about it and get on board. And we're really excited about it. We've already got over 100 partners that will be in our marketplace, and they'll have different deliverables for people like you signing on. So it'd be really fun to have you there.
Well, I'm looking it up right now. It sounds really, really cool. Um, Thank you so, so much for coming on. And I know it's really late where you are. Um, I really appreciate that we got this chance to talk and that you got to share with everybody.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, it is nighttime, but that is it's the time zone factor of the world.
Yeah,
So it's great that we look at, see, this is what internet does. We get to connect anyway.
exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Cece.
Thank you.
What did you take away from Cece's story? How can you be vulnerable with yourself? I'm Thea Charles, and I hope you gain insight from this story. If you'd like to learn more about the Push or Pivot podcast, visit us on Instagram at Push or Pivot or on the web at pushorpivot.com. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe and join me next time on the Push or Pivot podcast.